2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brandon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
Hey guys, this is Brandon, the host of the Ask Brandon Anything show. This is the show where we take the most awkward, difficult, challenging questions that are keeping you stuck in your relationships and stuck in your addictions. We break them down, we discuss them, we validate you, we give advice, and we empathize. And most importantly, we help you find truth so you can get unstuck. If you have a question, whatever it may be, go to brandonpatrick.com and submit a question there for the show. All right, I'm here with Grant Helt, and he is an expert on a lot of things, actually. He's been working in my practice for a few years now, and has taken on anything from sex addiction to couples issues to parenting, and everything in between. So, Grant, I'm really glad to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here. This is going to be fun today.
We're talking about parenting today. And parenting, well, one thing about it, are we experts in parenting? I don't know if I'd consider myself an expert in parenting. If you went to my house, Grant, you'd see that I'm clearly not an expert.
Yeah, you'd see the same at ours. Yep.
And how many kids do you have?
We have 2.
You have 2 kids, and I have 4, and we're in the midst of it. We're in the thick of it right now, right?
Yep.
But it's interesting to me when I meet with like adolescent clients. And a lot of times I'll meet, the parent will bring in the child and say, fix them. And I'll talk to the child, and the more I get into their story, I realize, oh my gosh, like, it's not really this child that needs the therapy, it's the parents that need the help.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. Yep.
Happens all the time, right?
Yep.
So we got 3 questions about parenting, and I hope that as we answer these questions, it's not just going to make you feel bad as a parent. That's not the goal of today's episode. The goal of today's episode is to provide you some support and to let you know that we're all in this together, right? And our kids are there. They are there to kind of poke you right where you need it. They bring out all of your shame, all of your blemishes, all of your stuff so that you can grow.
And they will poke.
Right? And they do poke. Do that. They figure it out. So, first big question is, how do I not pass on my own shame and wounds to my kids?
Yeah. Let me talk a little about where that one's coming from for me. So there's a personal experience with that where when my wife and I were first talking about starting our young family, we were making decisions about what we wanted to do to raise them well.
Okay.
And one of the things we decided was we want them to feel as comfortable as possible to talk about their bodies, sex, and sexuality.
Okay.
Because we didn't get that growing up. Like,
oh my gosh, nobody, at least the generation before ours, got that.
Yeah.
Nor did ours.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to set that up for them. And so one of the things that we've done is we have, our oldest is 5, so we're not having these deep conversations about that stuff.
Right.
But we've set it up where we at least use the proper terminology for their anatomy.
Uh-huh.
It's still weird to hear your 5-year-old use the proper terms sometimes. So a couple of months ago, my daughter gets out of bath time. I'm drying her off, and she just looks at me and says, "Dad, what does it feel like to have a penis?"
I love it.
And my wife is in the other room just cracking up, probably because I'm the one that has to field this question. But I noticed a couple interesting things. One was, first, there's a part of me that's like, this is awesome. This is exactly what I want.
Yes.
It's so cool that she feels comfortable to ask that question. But then there's the second part of me that still feels like,
oh my gosh,
what is that? This is an inappropriate question.
This is
right?
not what you do.
And so I think that a lot of parents have that experience where it's like, I know what I'm trying to do is helpful, but it may not be the experience I got growing up. And there's still a part of me that kind of reacts to that and feels some shame.
But it's so automatic. It's so natural for you, right? Because and your parents didn't intentionally wound you when it comes to talking about sex, and they did what probably all the other parents were doing at the time.
Yeah.
But there your daughter is like, "Hey, tell me about your penis, Dad," and you're like, I want to do what Mom and Dad did here. I don't want to do. I got to tell you a couple stories, and it's a little off topic, but she was 5 at the time. We were sitting in church, and it was like the quietest time at church. And she pipes up and she says, "Hey, Dad, you have a penis."
Right in the middle of church.
Right in the middle of church. And I was like, "Geez, Louise." Another time, I got out of the shower, and my daughter walks in on me, and she's like, "Whoa." She's like, "Dad, your vagina has a big old daddy's nose." But like coming back to the point you're making, Grant. Like you, I totally am grateful, and the reason my daughters are talking about vaginas and penises and all this stuff so naturally is because I'm very open with them and try to have an energy of comfortability and not being awkward. But at the same time, inside of me, there's a little bit of twinge as well. And this question about not passing our own wounds on to our kids, it's not just about sex is such an easy one to see it because we've all been conditioned and taught, and there's so much shame around sex. But our wounds, it's amazing with my clients how I see generational patterns of dysfunction and suffering, whether it's attachment wounds, not having healthy relationships, or shame wounds. It's amazing how mom has, self-worth issues and body image issues, and what do you know, her daughter has the exact same issues.
Shows up.
Even though mom tried to overcompensate so much and not have her daughter have those issues, daughter has those issues. And so how do you actually not become your parents and give your kids the exact same thing that you've gotten?
Right? How many of us have said that I don't want to do it the way my parents did it in some way or another.
Right.
And I think that it contributes to this fear we have as parents. And I think a lot of people start running away from being parents. And what I mean by that isn't you don't have kids. It's you show up as something other than a parent. You try to be a friend or someone who just mows down obstacles for them. And so I think the first thing is realizing,
because it's like I'm gonna screw up.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's realizing that
you're gonna screw up.
You're gonna screw up,
and that's okay.
Your job is to wound your kids a little bit as a parent. I hate to say that. Don't go out of your way to do it, but you're gonna screw up.
Yeah,
and your kids will be wounded.
Yeah.
And so what I'm hearing you say, Grant, is instead of running from that, and you mentioned some things like, becoming a friend to your kids, or shutting down and spending all your time on your phone or something, like to avoid, actually step into the process of parenting, which is failing over and over and over again.
Exactly. Yeah. So instead of trying to remove the vulnerability for your kids. Like, I love what you said about you're going to wound them, and in some ways that's good. You're there to model what it can look like to step into that, to fail, and yet I still love you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So okay, I actually think one of the biggest reasons why patterns get passed down is because of pride, and just like, look, I'm not gonna face my flaws and my blemishes here. I'm doing the best I can, get off my back. But instead to actually say, I have flaws and I have blemishes, that's your way out of not repeating patterns as a parent. It's an interesting paradox there. Okay. Other ways to not shame, to not pass on your shame and your wounds. Anything else, Grant?
Well, I think it's interesting because one of the things that brought this question up for me is I actually don't do a whole lot of work with young kids. Mm-hmm. And yet it's almost everything I do. Like, because clients that come into our offices there's these young places in them that are wounded.
Yes. And
so they start to, as you start to explore that, this light bulb goes off where they say, they ask that question, like, how do I not pass that on to my kids? And there can be this anxiety with it.
You're just working with big adult children all day long.
Pretty much.
It's so true.
And so I think that's one of the keys is, like, have the courage to look at your own wounds.
Yes.
Right? Go into that first and understand, like, what's impacted me when my child's having a tantrum at the grocery store. Why am I reacting to that so strongly?
Such a critical thing that Grant just said, and I want to drive that home, is if you don't want to pass your wounds on to your children in your shame, then you don't go to your children and try to just pretend and be what you're not. You actually go do your own internal work, self-reflection, and heal those wounds for yourself on your own, instead of just trying not to wound your children.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so critical. Biggest thing that you can do. Another thing, and Grant, you're a great educator. I know that I see you on the whiteboard a lot with your clients.
I joke about that with my clients, yeah.
You're a good educator, and you're a good teacher, and a good therapist is a good educator and a teacher, because I believe one of the ways to break patterns is through education. And so when a person is willing to be open and willing to digest information, they can get a new perspective and they can show up differently. And I believe that's a big way to stop the patterns of behavior. And so I imagine that's why you educate a lot, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
To help empower people to not continue those behaviors over and over again.
Yeah. If you can see it, you become empowered.
Yes. Okay. So self-reflection, your own therapy work, your own internal processing, and education.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the third thing that I'm hearing is practice a little self-compassion and acceptance that you're going to suck a little bit.
Yeah.
And give yourself that space.
Yeah. I heard a really interesting thought just recently that really struck home to me, that as a parent, you are an island of stability in a sea of uncertainty for your kids.
Yeah.
Like,
yes,
their friends are going to change, schools they go to are going to change. You're that one solid thing. And so it's not as important to get it right all the time.
Yes.
It's just that you're there.
Yes.
And you're connecting with them.
And I think that stability, again, another paradox. You're bringing out all the paradoxes today, Grant. As a parent, that stability comes from recognizing that there's this sea of instability and being okay with it and knowing how to navigate it and showing to your kids that, yeah, like life, you're not in control of things in your life, but we're okay. Yeah. And I'll show you that we're okay as we float along here, right?
Exactly.
So I love that saying. Okay, this leads us right to our second question. And we've already covered this quite a bit, but what is parent guilt and how do I overcome it?
Yeah, parent guilt. My 5-year-old, we talked about how your kids will push your buttons.
Yes.
And she's I love her. She is very strong-willed. And if she doesn't get her way, watch out, right? And so this parent guilt comes up a lot for me if we're out somewhere, a restaurant, a grocery store, even just at home. And we're having this battle of wills, right? So you get this guilt, like, what am I doing wrong?
Yes. How are you failing?
Yeah.
And so you're dealing with a 5-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And, from an outsider's perspective, Grant, it's easy for me to see it. Like, hey, Grant, you're dealing with a 5-year-old who's going to tantrum and power struggle and do all this crazy stuff because she's a 5-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
But your adult self, when she's freaking out, gets triggered into feeling like, oh my gosh, like I'm failing. I'm doing something wrong.
Exactly.
Which are you doing something wrong because your 5-year-old is freaking out?
No, you're not. But who likes to be bullied by a 5-year-old?
Right.
And so you're going to feel that.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong.
So psychoanalyze me for a second here, Grant. It was like 4 weeks ago, and I found myself at this place called Bricks and Minifigs. Now it's a Lego place. I'm not a Lego guy. I don't like Legos. I don't want to go to a Lego store. And I go there, and there's all these adults just like thumbing through all these. I can't imagine the amount of coronavirus in those Legos. Just sorting through, sifting through all these Legos. And my kids go in that place and just go nuts. They're just like digging through Legos and loving it. And I'm sitting there thinking, it was a Saturday afternoon. We'd just done some chores, and I felt like I was there because I wanted to feel like I was a good dad because I got my kids out of the house to actually go do something, but I really didn't want to go do that. But I did it anyways just because I felt guilty as a dad that, hey, I got to go do this to feel like I'm a good dad to get my kids into this place, right?
Right.
Is that good parenting?
Well, so Jordan Peterson is a clinical psychologist at the University of Toronto, and he wrote a book, and in one of the chapters he talks about don't let your kids do anything that would cause you to dislike them or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
And on the surface, I'm like, that sounds really weird. My kids do stuff like that all the time.
Right.
But I think the point is that you're real with your kids.
Yeah.
And that you're honest. And, like I'll do things with my daughter to show, my interest in what she's interested in. But I don't want to set her up to have this experience with her father where it's based on almost deception, like that I'm faking it to connect to her.
Yes.
And so I think that it's healthy sometimes to say, hey, like this may not be what I'm interested in. How about this? How about this other thing over here?
Right. I love that. When I'm acting, I'm kind of hearing you call me out a little bit here, Grant, which I need. When I'm acting out of guilt as a father, I'm being fake, and my kids will be able to feel that even if I'm doing a seemingly good thing. Like, hey, children, let's go to church. I want to take you to church. And I'm just doing it because I feel guilty and I want them to go to church because I want to look like a good dad and I want to be a good dad. They'll feel my insincerity to that. And for me to actually check myself and say, who am I really? That's it really is overcoming all of the shoulds as a dad, all of the things that I learned from my parents and from the society and everything about what I should be and just being me.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing that's really helped me with that is to understand what do my kids really need. And another author, I know you read some of his books too, John Eldredge and his wife Stacy. I come back to this with my kids time and time again that, my son has this core question of, am I enough, Dad? Mm-hmm. And my daughter is, do I capture your attention? Mm-hmm. And so when push comes to shove with these questions of what's the right thing to do, I try to keep that in mind, that it's not so much what we're doing, it's how am I doing with answering that question for them, right?
Yes.
So I think, yeah.
Yes. So say those two questions again.
So am I enough?
For the masculine.
For the masculine.
For the boys.
And do I capture your attention?
That's a daughter to a dad.
Daughter to a dad.
Yes.
So when I walk in from work tonight, I can almost tell you what's going to happen. My daughter's going to have some picture that she drew, or she'll be in a princess costume, and immediately it's going to be, hey, Daddy, look at me.
Yeah.
And if I walk in with my nose and my cell phone, I'm not doing a great job answering that question for her.
You're right. And I think to listen to that guilt a little bit, if you feel that like I'm on my cell phone, maybe that guilt's actually telling you something important, right? It's my 7-year-old's birthday today. She turned 7. So I woke up at like 6:30, and my daughter ran around to my side of the bed, and she smiled, and she just lost 3 teeth. So like her smile's really funny looking right now, and I love it. And she hugs me, and she's like, "It's my birthday, and I've decided I'm not going to school." And I was like, "Oh, you have you?" And she gives me this big hug, and she's like, "Dad, it's my birthday." And totally, it was her saying, you know, do I captivate you? Do you see me? And gosh, it's moments like that just all this guilt and all this craziness and feeling like a failure all the time make being a dad worth it. And just having those connections with your kids, and you know, validating my sons and their masculinity, and letting them know that they are man enough to me. But when we have those connections, it just makes it all worth it. I went to a training a while back, and this was years ago, and I was struggling with some stuff, and I was struggling with constant parent guilt and feeling like I'm screwing my kids up, even though my kids are great. And I asked the guy, I said, you know, what do I do? How do I overcome this? You know, and I was expecting, well, here's this tool and here's that tool, and this is how you empathize with your kids or communicate with them or not power struggle. And he looked at me, and he got really serious, and he looked at me, and he's like, what your kids need is you. Your kids came to you. So you don't need to read the perfect book to tell you what to be. You need to be. You just need to be Brannon with your kids. That's what your kids need. And so I think it's so important to accept yourself and love yourself and have that compassion for yourself, so that you can just step into being Grant or being Brannon with your kids, because your kids need you.
Yeah,
right?
I love that.
So
I love that.
Okay, Grant, let's go on to the last really broad question. But what is one bit of advice that you would give to parents?
Well, I come back to kind of where we started, and it's more a statement rather than advice, and that's, you're going to fail. Mm-hmm. And I think just the acceptance of that, it takes some pressure off, and it also allows you to understand that. Well, I like speaking in metaphors, so let me share this. That I remember my wife and I would take this road trip up to this town in Idaho, McCall, Idaho. We'd go once every other summer when we were first married, and you drive through a whole lot of nothing.
Right.
It's just barren, and there's this one section of the highway up there. It's right after the Utah-Idaho border, I think, where they have these signs posted that this is a high wind area, kind of slow down if you're driving a semi, mm-hmm. right? And all of a sudden there's these trees. And there might be some other geographical reason for that, but it always struck me as like, isn't that interesting that as soon as there's like this high wind, the trees grow.
Interesting.
And so I think of that as a parent sometimes. It's like, my kids press my buttons. That's kind of them putting wind on me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to fail. There's going to be things that I do that might affect them, but it's going to help us to grow.
Yes.
So that would be my advice, is just recognize you're going to fail.
Yes. I love that, because the process of parenting is through a lot of pain and heartache, and it's a process. And I think if our expectations as a parent is, there's not, like, I don't want the wind, mm-hmm. Well, then you're kind of screwed, because it's coming. And when you step into that, your teenage daughter hates you, and it's like, well, this is part of her growth process. Mm-hmm. This is so how as a dad can I just embrace her hating me right now and be the best dad I possibly can while she hates me. When your 5-year-old yells at you, this is all the wind. It's awesome, and it's amazing. And I sure haven't appreciated my parents enough. Now that I'm a parent of 4, my mom had 5, and it's like, whoa, like hopefully Mom, if you're listening to this, you're taking Grant's advice and being like, man, I got some strong trees. Thank you, Brandon.
That's good.
But you can't avoid it as a parent. You can't avoid it. And who was I talking to the other day? I can't remember. A friend of mine, and they had 3 kids or something. His wife was pregnant, and he was saying, how are we stupid enough to do this again? Like,
oh man,
how do you forget? How do you forget what pregnancy's like? The early childhood years. And like, why do we do this to ourselves? Grant, why do you do it?
Well, oh man, gosh, that's a big question. But I think the reason I do it is there's just so much joy. Like watching our youngest is 18 months old, and just watching him develop and develop his own personality, and you kind of see yourself in your kids a little bit, and it's awesome.
Nothing better. That's why we do it.
Yeah.
It's painful. There's a lot of parent guilt. You worry that you're screwing them up, which you are, and in a weird, amazing way, there's absolutely nothing better. Just like marriage, there's nothing harder than marriage, and there's nothing better.
Wouldn't trade it for the world. Yeah.
My advice for parents would be absolutely what Grant said, which is embrace failure, have compassion for yourself. But one thing that I would say is learn how to, and I might trigger a little parent guilt here, but learn how to validate your children's on an emotional level. And so they're going to be crazy at times, but when you can validate them on an emotional level, what you're saying to them, you're answering the questions that you brought up earlier. Mm-hmm. You're saying, I see you and you're important and you are enough. So they might freak out that their friend stole a toy, and you're thinking it's not that big a deal. If you don't want to deal with it, you're just gonna be like, it's not that big a deal, get over it. Get down on their level, look them in the eye, and learn how to say things like, you seem really upset right now, and I feel you, I get it, and it's okay that you're upset. The more you can validate them, the more they're going to learn healthy attachment from you, and the healthier they're going to be as adults. So practice connecting with them on an emotional level. So that would be my advice for parents. And there's a lot of skills to that, and we're not going to get into all of them today. But hopefully this content was good for you. If you liked the content, or if you're listening to it and you're thinking, oh my gosh, my friend needs to hear that, or my partner needs to hear that, then please share this, and please rate and review the podcast. The more reviews we get right now, it's just so helpful. So I would really appreciate any reviews that we get. And thank you so much. We'll see you guys.